Battle of Hue, Northern South Vietnam, 31st January 1968 to the 24th of February 1968. The dark clouds, steady drizzle, and boarded-up buildings heightened the sense of foreboding as the U.S. Marines of Corporal Glenn Lucas's Point Squad approached the Thuong Tu Gate to the Hue Citadel. As they drew closer, they were struck by a hailstorm of fire from the soldiers of the North Vietnamese Army in concealed positions along the fortress wall and inside the gate. Half of the men in the squad were knocked to the ground. The Marines returned fire with machine guns. Commander Captain Charles Meadows received permission to abort the mission from Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Gravel, but it would take the Marines 2 hours to safely pull back to the Nguyen Hoang Bridge. Earlier that afternoon, Gravel had been ordered to lead 2 companies of Marines across the only remaining intact bridge over the Perfume River, which divided the city into northern and southern parts. Their objective was to link up with the belligerent personnel from the Army of the Republic of South Vietnam 1st Infantry Division headquarters, trapped in the northeast corner. The following day, ARVN relief forces reached their fellow soldiers in the citadel from the north. It would be more than 10 days before the Marines returned to the citadel. The Communist offensive occurred on the Vietnamese New Year holiday, Tet, to give them the element of surprise when they struck Hue, third largest city. Aware of the overwhelming strength of the U.S. military forces, the Communists knew that they would only be able to hold Hue for a short amount of time, but because it was the historical heart and soul of South Vietnam, the attack had great propaganda value. In the early hours of the 31st January, the 6th Regiment of the NVA captured the citadel on the north bank of the Perfume River, and the 4th Regiment seized the south side. Despite their impressive whirlwind attack, the Communists made several key mistakes on the first day. They not only failed to overrun the ARVN headquarters unit and the Military Assistant Command Vietnam compound, but they also failed to seal off Route 1 so that the U.S. Marine forces at Phu Bay Combat Base, 13 kilometers away, could not quickly reach the south side. The ARVN and the U.S. Marine Corps forces began counterattacking from their respective perimeters on 4th of February. On 11th of February, at the request of the South Vietnamese, the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines deployed by boat and helicopter to the northern end of the citadel to assist ARVN forces in the clearing of the last enemy troops from the citadel. As the battle drew to a close, ARVN forces were given the honor of retaking the Imperial Palace inside the citadel and replacing the Viet Cong banner on the main flagpole with the South Vietnam flag. After the battle, the mass graves of 2,800 civilians executed by the Viet Cong during the occupation were discovered. For the South Vietnamese, Hue was a dark chapter in a long war. North Vietnamese Army forces, 4 battalions. Viet Cong forces, 6 battalions. Their general was Vu Nguyen Giap. The defense minister masterminded the Tet offensive in hopes of inciting an uprising in South Vietnam. His strengths? He struck cultural center of Hue with overwhelming strength. His weaknesses? Mistakenly believed that the NVA commanders were as skilled as the U.S. commanders. He used North Vietnamese regulars as his key unit. They were well supplied in the early stage of the battle because sympathizers had stockpiled food and ammunition. They had higher morale and a willingness to die fighting for the reunification of Vietnam. Their weaknesses? They suffered from deprivation and diseases such as malaria, living in primitive conditions in the jungles of South Vietnam. Their key weapon was the RPG-2. The handheld rocket-propelled grenade launcher gave NVA and VC soldiers the ability to knock out enemy armored vehicles and strongpoints. It was rugged and very easy to operate, but it was only accurate at short distances. The U.S. and ARVN Army. ARVN forces, 11 battalions. U.S. forces, 3 Marine battalions, plus 3 U.S. Army battalions. Their brigadier general was Foster C. Lahu, USMC. He was the assistant commander of the 1st Marine Divisions. His strength? Pressed the attack despite stifling rules of engagement. His weaknesses? Underestimated the enemy threat and fed reinforcements piecemeal. He used the U.S. Marines as his key unit. They were entrusted with helping defend against communist insurgencies. They were elite Marines excelled at offensive operations, but hampered by rules of engagement that initially prohibited artillery and air support in an effort to spare civilians. They used the M48A3 Patton tank. They spearheaded attacks through the city protecting infantry squads. They were capable of knocking out strongpoints with its 90mm cannon, but unable to operate on some narrow streets inside the citadel, and vulnerable to RPGs. I will now tell you the specifics of the battle. The night assault on the citadel. At 3:30 a.m. on the 31st of January 1968, 3 battalions of North Vietnamese soldiers storm into the citadel from the north and west through 3 gates. Their objective are the Tay Loc airfield and the Man Ca compound, which houses the headquarters of the 1st South Vietnamese Division. To support the surprise attack, 122mm rockets screened down on the targets throughout the city. By the end of the first day, the Communists will control 60% of the citadel. The 804th NVA Battalion, supported by the Viet Cong militia, simultaneously strikes the newer triangular-shaped residential portion of Hue, south of the Perfumey River. Also under cover of darkness on the morning of the 31st of January, the Communists attacked the local headquarters of the Military Assistance Command Vietnam, where 200 U.S. technical personnel defend their compound against attacks by Communist troops armed with mortars, rocket-propelled grenades, machine guns, and automatic rifles. A company of Marines from Phu Bay Combat Base head towards Hue in trucks in a response to requests for support from the MACV compound. On the way, they link up with 4 M48 tanks. As the convoy approaches Hue, it is pinned down on the southern outskirts of the city by heavy fire from North Vietnamese regulars. A fresh company of Marines is sent to reinforce the beleaguered company. The 300 Marines won't reach the compound until the afternoon. Company G of the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, receives order in the late afternoon of the first day to cross an intact bridge over the Perfume River and link up with the South Vietnamese surrounded by Communist forces. The bridge is too light to support the tanks, so they furnish covering power from the south bank. During a 2-hour firefight, the hard-fighting Marines cross the river, but fierce enemy drives them back. Of 150 Marines engaged, 1/3 are casualties. Brigadier General Nguyen Kiong Trong requests help from units of the 1st Division of the ARVN near Hue on behalf of the beleaguered divisional headquarters inside the citadel. All of the units responding suffer heavy losses, fighting their way through enemy forces in an effort to reach the headquarters. Once they arrive, they recapture Tay Loc airfield. A force of 1,000 U.S. Marines fights block by block to clear the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong from the south side of the city. The Marines are supported by M48 tanks, trucks armored with quad 50 cal machine guns, and a low silhouette tracked vehicle called an Ontos with a turret supporting 2 arms, each of which holds 3 recoilless rifles. Although the Marines clear Hue's south side of the large-scale Communist forces by 10th of February, they continue to conduct sweeps against snipers. Soldiers of the 3rd Brigade of the U.S. Army's 1st Air Cavalry Division land west of Hue on 3rd of February with orders to cut the Communist supply line to depots running west from Hue to the Ho Chi Minh Trail and become entangled in heavy combat with entrenched Communist forces. Elite South Vietnamese troops go toe-to-toe with the North Vietnamese regulars inside the citadel in early February. When the South Vietnamese captured the northwest wall of the citadel on 4th of February, the North Vietnamese launched a successful counterattack. The 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, arrives in the citadel on the 11th of February to clear the eastern half of the sprawling fortress. One of the most daunting tasks they face is clearing the enemy from the archway tower in the northeastern wall. ARV and Black Panther Rangers clear the Imperial Palace of Communist troops. On 24th February, the Rangers replaced the Viet Cong flag that has flown at the main gate for 25 days with the South Vietnamese flag. This action finally concludes the Battle of Hue, with the fortress successfully being taken over